Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Own Your Peace. I'm your host, Andy Thewison, and this week I am going to do things a little bit different. Typically, these episodes are around a topic, or I'm teaching, or I'm having guests. But this week, I really wanted to share my heart and open up in a really kind of unique, different, vulnerable way that I think will be helpful. I see a lot of other podcast hosts do a life update episode, and that's very much what this episode is. It's a life update. And I don't do that a lot. I like to blame that on my Scorpio moon, which loves privacy and does not really like to let people in, especially to the vulnerable, sides of myself. But this past year has been a beautiful year in so many ways, but it also has been one of the most demanding, one of the most challenging, one of the most breakdown years of my life. And I know a lot of you have been feeling this too with 2025, where it was the year of the snake, and numerology year 9, where this was very purposeful for so many of us, where we were forced to really let go of a lot of things. And of course, we had astrology transits and how much those have shifted and changed and really brought us into really truly new energetic eras that will officially land in 2026. A lot in 2025, we've got samplings, but there was a lot of retrograding back for final lessons in 2025. And boy, did I have a lot of those lessons to learn this last year. So this has truly been a burn down rebuild year for myself, and I'm emerging a completely different human. You have had a front seat for so much of this along the way, with me growing and evolving in every episode I record. And I'm so grateful for you for being on this journey with me. And I'm really excited looking into 2026 and seeing how this continues to grow and to evolve. I've mentioned this in a couple of my Instagram posts, but I have been deep in hypnotherapy for the past month. And hypnotherapy is no joke. It has been something I have really enjoyed. I don't know if I say I would enjoy it, but it has really been forcing me and really leveling me up in really new ways, because it's helping me get to a lot of the root of some deep wounds that I wasn't quite sure the impact that they've had on my life. And what's interesting about hypnotherapy, and these are with Sari Kausert, who was on my episodes a couple episodes back, and I've been working with her one-on-one with these hypnotherapy sessions. And so a lot of the stories and things that are coming through on these hypnotherapy sessions are memories I know. I recognize them. I remember them. But what's unique about looking through them through the lens of hypnotherapy is I'm now understanding on a deep conscious level how much they had damaged me on a subconscious level, and how much that incident, which I, consciously like overrode, as like, oh, it wasn't that big of a deal. Truly am understanding how deeply those wounds have continued to make an impact in my life, and seeing them through the lens of how, in a very practical sense, have helped me back. So I've been going through a lot of that. And I'll talk about some of the experiences I've had with hypnotherapy as we move along on this life update session. Also, it is literally the anniversary of my dad's passing next Monday. So this year has been really hard because I'm coming up on that 1 year anniversary of him being gone. Thanksgiving last year being really the last time that I spent time with him before he passed. So Thanksgiving was heavy, remembering him and the last time we spent time together, and truly in a lot of ways wishing I would have held tighter, took more pictures, asked more questions, spent more time with him during that time last year. We never know when our last time with someone will be. And I absolutely didn't know that he was going to be gone. Looking back, I wish I would have held that time and honored that time more deeply than I did. And that stings. Obviously, we had a great time. It was a great Thanksgiving last year. And we were with my sister and her family and my parents. And we were in Las Vegas area for the holiday. And we play football after we eat, we go and we play football because the weather's nice. We can do this. So we go out, we went and we played football, and it was, a mishmash of team. Like some of her kids were on my team, some of my kids were on her team, and it was just fun. And we had a really good time. I'm not a great football player, so nobody really is excited about me be on their team, but and I normally am not like super into it, but last year I played and I had a really good time playing and being out there and being a part of the action. And at the end of the game, we took a picture of all the kids that played with all the adults, and my dad took the picture, and you can see his shadow in this picture. And that picture just kept coming to my mind, to my heart this Thanksgiving day. And I went back to my phone and of course, looked at that picture, and it was a reminder that he's always going to be there. His shadow's always going to be a part of my life, and he's never really gone. He might be physically gone, but his spirit is very much still here. I miss his random texts on a Tuesday about a post I did or questions he just randomly had about astrology or human design, and him actively trying to understand the work that I did. I will forever and always miss those kind of out of the blue texts, and I miss that deeply. And this Christmas has been hard to get into the spirit of things. Every year my husband and I throw a Christmas party for our friends. And this year I didn't have the heart to do it. And that's okay. I honored that I wasn't in a headspace for it and I didn't push to make it happen, where in past years I would have felt like I had to or that I should. This year I'm not sending out Christmas cards. I didn't feel the pull to do it. And I'm really allowing myself to stop doing things because I feel like I should, and really stepping into what feels aligned, what feels like it's coming from a place of me being me and not performative or feeling like that's just what you do. This year, this is the first time in 23 years. How long have we been married? I've been sitting him out since our first year of marriage. I'm giving you permission to stop being performative and things that take your space and time during the holidays, and really honoring like what feels like something you still want to do. Maybe next year I'll be in the mood to do Christmas cards again. I don't know. This year I just wasn't feeling it, so I gave myself a pass. I allowed myself to put it down. Same with a Christmas party. Hopefully next year, because we have a lot of fun at our Christmas party. I think one of the most mature things we can do as we get older, as we honor our energy, is really being honest with what we have space for and what we don't have space for. And even when it's not the easy decision, it would be easy to put together a party, make it look like it was something I was excited about, where my heart just wouldn't be in it. The last time we had our Christmas party, we had a great time, and I woke up the next morning to texts and calls from my mom, from my family, that my dad had a hard night. And I drove up that next day after the party and walked in on my dad coding. That's a lot. So I'm giving myself space. I'm giving myself space to put that down, to honor some true feelings I'm working through right now with the anniversary of his death. Parts of me are really healthy and whole and feel really connected to my dad. I will always miss him. I will always miss that instant access to him. He was just a phone call away, just a text away. But now it's a different kind of connection. I definitely still feel him, and it's in a completely new way that I'm learning to navigate when I do feel him and when I do feel his spirit with me. And the communication style is a little bit different, right? So navigating that, but between all the deep work I'm doing through hypnotherapy and this anniversary date of my dad's passing, and the holidays here, and then my oldest daughter, who I'm so happy for, moved out of state. She is no longer 30 minutes away. She's literally, she's in Idaho, so she's near family. So that does make my mama heart feel better, but she's not just right here anymore where I'm like, hey, let's go, or come over, we're having Sunday dinner. So that's been hard. Walking past her room and having it be completely empty of all her stuff. is hard. Any of you who are starting the process of kids moving out, it's hard. It's really hard. And it's a weird energy to navigate where you're so happy for them. You're so proud of them for stepping into adulthood and them getting this place that they're so excited about and helping them move and packing up their old room and moving it to this new place where they're starting this new era of their lives without you. Truly. And that's been weighing on my mama heart and has been hard to navigate and sit with and saying goodbye to her. We still talk all the time. We're still like, I love that we are able to do that. And I'm so grateful for her. And I'm so proud of the woman she's becoming. But her not being in the same home and in the same state has been hard, and navigating that and missing her and missing walking by her room. She's a collector of oddities, like the most interesting thing. She is one of these kids that are like unbelievably cool without even trying. Like she's just effortlessly cool. And I'm so proud of her for that. And just walking past her room and seeing all these little treasures and oddities. I always called her room the natural museum of curiosities in our house, and seeing all her little collections and her curations and not seeing that. And it's back to this blank slate of my minimalistic style, and it doesn't have her full spirit and spunk in there. So that's kind of like every time I walk past it, my mind and my heart kind of sink a little bit because I miss seeing her energy in that space, and I miss her deeply. But again, so proud of her. And it can be both, right? We can be sad and disappointed that someone has left our lives and has moved on, but also at the same time, and we can be deeply proud of them and deeply excited for them in this new stage of their lives. And I really feel like so many of us, as our kids are moving on, as we're getting older, we're in that space of like, yes, and yes, I'm so excited for you, and I miss you deeply. And it's hard that you're not so intertwined in our lives and you're creating your own, and navigating that space has been interesting. So I have all these things that are going on in the background of my life, um, that are making me feel really emotional right now. So that's why I wanted to do this life update so that kind of like, the wizard behind the machine, I guess. Like, I'm not really a machine because I hope I don't come across as a machine. That would be terrible. So here's to me being vulnerable and opening up and sharing in my life and not being so private. Circling back to what's been coming up for me during hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy has been so deeply healing, and also at the same time, so disruptive of patterns of things that I have used to cage me. Speaking of cage. So when you're doing hypnotherapy, and the way that Siri does it is she walks you through visualizations. And you still have your wherewithal. You still are aware of your situation. It's not like a deep under hypnotherapy where you don't even remember anything. I still hear noises. I still hear things going on. Still hear the dogs barking, all those things. But I'm very deep in my meditation. And I'm very much a visual seer when I'm doing these meditations. So I kind of am feeling and seeing these things as I'm guided through these meditations. So I'm going to share two of my hypnotherapy journeys and what I've learned from those hypnotherapy journeys. The first one was you go through this meadow. And as you go through the meadow, the first time I did it, I shared it on my Instagram. It was the jaguar. I saw this jaguar. I let my power go. I stepped into my power. We ran. It was great. You can hear more about that on my Instagram. The second time I did it on my own, because Sari's awesome. She sends you the meditation after, so you can have a different experience when you try it again at home. So I did this one just on a Thursday morning by myself. And the second time was even more powerful. And of course, I decided to do it on the Gemini full moon, which was really smart of me. Made it even more impactful. So as I was going through this meditation, she takes you through to a meadow, and in the meadow, you kind of, see how you land. So when I stepped in the meadow, I was my adult self, but I was in hiking gear. I had a backpack. I had really sturdy boots on, and I was prepared. As I was walking through this, I definitely looked like I had the gear for whatever journey I was going on. And then You go to the edge of the meadow and there's a cage. And she kind of leaves it open for what do you see in this cage. And in this cage on this journey, um, I saw myself as a 5-year-old little girl. And I was huddled in a corner. I was completely terrified. My arms were wrapped around my little knees and I was just in like a little ball. I could feel the terror and feel the confusion and the cagedness of this little 5-year-old version of myself. And then I'm guided to walk around to the other side of the cage. And then you see the lock. And then, of course, you have the key in your pocket. And then I unlock the cage to let this little 5-year-old version of myself out. And at first, she's very hesitant. She's scared to even come out of this cage. But eventually, coax her out of this cage and I pick her up and she's clinging to me so tightly. And I'm holding her and I feel the words that this 5-year-old version of myself needed to hear and feel. And it was very much, you're not too much. Your emotions are not too big. You're not a liar. You're definitely not too much. I believe you. I trust you. I see you. And I held her and I just stroked her tiny little back. And I was holding her and we walked together because she would not let me put her down. Um, and we walked to, and then I'm being guided through this meditation and we go to this fire. And finally, after holding her and comforting her and telling her, I believe you, I trust you, um, you're not too much. I'm not telling you to be quiet. I'm not telling you to like tone it down. Not telling you that your emotions are too big. I'm just letting you be who you are. And I hold you and I love you and I recognize you. And I put her down and we're at this fire. And immediately we look at each other with this mischievous energy between us. And I'm like, oh, let's be Indians. And we were walking around the fire and we were, hootering and hollering and like skipping and being so silly as we were walking around this fire. And then Sari guides us to, throw what needs to be placed into the fire. And at that point, we threw away the fact that we felt like we were too much, that our imagination was too much, that we were liars, that what we saw and felt wasn't real, and that we felt too much. All of that we put into the fire. And it was this beautiful embracing of now we can be silly, now we can laugh. We're not too much. We're exactly as we should be. And then we moved to the clearing again and we laid on the grass and we held hands and we looked up at the clouds and I was like, what do you see? What do you see? And we were just having fun and being so light in that moment. And here's where I think is really cool. So I know a lot of you have mixed feelings about AI. And for me, it has been something that's been helpful. I always, exercise extreme self-awareness and also what resonates, keep, what doesn't resonate, don't keep. So what I like to do after a session is to put in what I saw into ChatGPT. And then I have it kind of give me what did all this mean? And then one of the next directives is that it's like, would you like me to channel a letter from this version of you? And I want to share that with you. Okay, this is it. Thank you for coming back for me. I thought you forgot. I thought everyone forgot. I was so scared in that cage, not because of monsters, but because no one understood what I felt or what I saw. I wasn't trying to be dramatic. I wasn't lying. I wasn't trying to get attention. I was just me. And it didn't feel like the world had room for that. But when you showed up today, older, stronger, warm, I knew I wasn't alone anymore. I knew you finally saw me the way I always wished someone would. You didn't tell me to be quiet. You didn't tell me to behave. You didn't tell me I was too much. You held me. You believed me. You let me feel. And when we danced around the fire, I remembered what it felt like to be free, to be silly, to be wild and loud and magical. That's who I really am. Please don't forget me again. Take me with you. Let me make you laugh. Let me help you imagine big things. Let me help you trust the colors and the shapes and the whispers you've always felt. I'm not a burden. I'm your spark. I'm so happy you came back. I'm ready to go everywhere with you now. That was so healing. And I know a lot of you who are intuitives and who are sensitive and who were sensitive kids who saw more and had wild imaginations, how deep this cut goes. Because typically at age 5 is when adults in your life start to tell you that your imagination, you need to tone that down. Or if you are seeing things, they get scared and they, try to talk you out of what you've been seeing. And I know I was a very intuitive, very imaginative, very emotional child, and I was too much. We live in such a logical, concrete 3D world. So for parents navigating a child who's talking about seeing spirits or seeing things that aren't there, that can be scary. And I understand for my parents, that was probably tricky to navigate. And also at the same time, like, why are you lying? Why are you telling these wild stories? And trying to make me land here on earth and be real in this experience. And that was a lot for me to navigate. And, I have no animosity towards my parents. They were doing what they thought for was right for me at that time, but I didn't understand. And this is what hypnotherapy really helped me to understand is how deeply crushed I was by that and how much I have kept that side of myself caged, trying to look normal, trying to fit in a world I was never meant to fit into, and allowing myself to reopen these spiritual gifts that were so present when I was a 5-year-old, opening up that wild imagination, that wild sense of knowing that there's so much beyond what we can physically see. And that is what I received and welcomed back because of that session. And that was so incredibly empowering and has opened so much in me, but also at the same time, there's a wound there. There's deep hurt for that little version of myself. And I put a little picture of her on my desk. So she's here with me and we're doing this together and we're healing together. And that was just one session, and how much that unpacked and helped me to see. And then my last session, same type of, hypnotherapy session, but this time I'm in the same clearing. That's kind of how this goes as you go into a clearing. And in this clearing, I was asked to see a version of myself where a wound originated. And it was the origination of being ashamed of being seen and hiding myself. And so that's the igniter of this meditation of like, well, let's figure out where this wound really came from and understand it. So I'm in this field and I look over and there's my 14-year-old self and her terrible perm and her secondhand Guess overalls that she absolutely loved and thought she was so cool in because she finally had something that was name brand. I'm sure my mom found them at a garage sale or something, but I had Guess overalls and I was so cool. And I had this really terrible perm that I thought looked great. And seeing that little version of myself and feeling the hurt and total betrayal of an event that happened at that age. So when I was 14, I had this group of friends and I was just so excited. I was a very naive, very sheltered 14-year-old. So I trusted deeply the people who were in my experience. Had no reason to at this point, with friendships. So in this friend group, they for months had been talking about and saying this phrase, and they would like look at each other and giggle. And I didn't know the origin of this phrase. I didn't understand what it meant, but me just trying to be seen and being part of this group would laugh along just to feel like I was part of the joke of whatever this was. And this went on for a few months, this phrase. Oh, this is getting heavy. And finally, I'll never forget. We were sitting in the lunchroom and I was sitting there and my friends kind of all ganged up and they're like, well, you're no longer welcome in this friend group. You can't sit with us anymore. And oh, FYI, that phrase, that's when we talk about you. And that phrase, dumb enough as it is, was she makes good bread. So for months, anytime they were talking about me to my face and making fun of me to my face, they would say she makes good bread. And they said a lot. And the realization that they had been talking about me and making fun of me, and I was the brunt of the joke for months, where I was even trying to laugh and be a part of it, came crashing down on me. And that was the moment that I learned in my subconscious mind that it wasn't safe to be who I was. It wasn't safe to be my little weird self. It wasn't safe to be the imaginative, quirky gal that I am. I had to show up a certain way. I had to be a certain way for people to like me. And I had to hide parts of myself to fit in. And this is something that echoed continually throughout my teen years and into my adult years, where I would finally make new friends and something would happen where I was again the brunt of the joke or I was kicked out of the group. So, time and time again, I would finally feel like I was safe in a friend group and something would happen where I was no longer safe. So, even as an adult, 46 here, I have a really hard time letting people in and trusting friends because I'm not cool enough or for whatever reason. I'm too weird. You quirky weirdos out there who identify as being a little out there in your beliefs and the way that you show up in the world, and you're a bright light. That's the biggest thing. Is I am an extremely bright light. I'm here to shake things up and I'm not meant to fit in. And a lot of the friend groups that I had found myself in didn't have space for that. They didn't know how to hold that. And it would cause a lot of feelings within friend groups where I had a lot of people talking behind my back and trying to get me out of the group. And this is a theme that's been, I can blame my Pluto in the 11th house from an astrological standpoint, but it truly is been a deep, deep wound throughout my lifetime. And seeing my little 14-year-old self and understanding that that moment changed everything and changed how I saw myself, changed how I showed up for people, and has continued to be how I show up for people. Even in the creation of this podcast, I feel like I have to edit so that people will listen and pay attention and see me. And that is the most awful thing I could do for myself and for truly for any of us. Please don't edit yourself. Please shine brightly. Please be who you are. And one thing I am learning through hypnotherapy is that I can be who I am. It's safe to be who I am. There's going to always be people who aren't able to hold space for me and who are, it's just not, you're not meant to be everybody's cup of tea. And that's okay. And learning that and holding that and learning to trust friendships and allowing myself to be vulnerable in friendships. It's crazy how as women, sometimes our biggest wounds aren't from like dating experiences. They're from friendships. That's the hardest heartbreaks we'll ever have been through friendships. And that is definitely true in my experience. I'd love to hear from you what your experiences are with those friendships, especially if you identify with being different. I'm feeling like you're not fit for a mold, and that's definitely who I am. I've never felt like I felt or was built to fit any mold. I've always kind of felt like trying to fit a round peg in a square hole is who I am. But that was the experience. But what's cool is as I went through this hypnotherapy session, and I saw that moment and I felt the heaviness and the shift that that caused. I looked over at my little 14-year-old self. I'm like, ha ha ha, we make good bread. Hell yeah, we make good bread. And I was like fist bumping her and like high fiving. And I made it a joke and this silly thing between the two of us. And, as the meditation continued to guide me, we went to a circle of women. And these are my ancestors and women who have held the same pain and the same hurt of not being able to be their authentic selves, hiding their magic, hiding their gifts, hiding who they truly are to fit into a world that never understood them. And we felt that common wound. And these women, as I approached them, I could feel that we had this commonality, this common hurt, this common wound that I was there to end. I was the cycle breaker of this wound. And as I'm approaching these women, they are hilarious. They're like, hell yeah, we make good bread. And they were like helping me heal from that moment and accepting it that, yeah, we do make good bread and we're good at and we're awesome at this. And it was just this sisterhood that I had craved. And it was my ancestors. And I felt deeply held and deeply loved as I entered the circle of women. And I was asked to share with these women how this wound had held me back. And I shared with them what I just shared with you, how much I had continued to ed myself and play small to fit into a world that I was never meant to fit into, and how much that hurt over the years to see friendships continually crash and burn when I became too much, when I shined a little too big, when was a little too weird, a little too out there for people. And and I kept feeling that pain and feeling their commonality of how their wounds were my wounds and my wounds were theirs. And it was held together. And they wrapped me in so much love. And then I was guided in the meditation to walk. And these women were to follow me. And as I was walking, this beautiful, regal cloak was placed upon me. And it was beautiful. And it was made of these hand woven fabrics of different colors, of different textures, with this regal air to it. And it had this golden light emanating from it. And it just felt so beautiful. And it flowed behind me. It was beautiful. And these women followed behind me with this coat that I was wearing. And we were guided to this river that we were meant to cross. And as we got to the river, um, they walked in front of me and stepped into the river. And they made a bridge with their magic and with their bodies for me to walk over, to hold me, to support me in my becoming. And as I stepped in, I felt the love of being deeply held, the celebration of me breaking this cycle of not being understood, of not being celebrated, and being able to shine as brightly as we needed to. And I walked across this bridge and to this other side of this river, and there was a celebration of, you did it. You're here to break this curse, this hold that has held us women for generations back from being truly the magical humans that we are. And I think this echoes for so many of us, especially those who identify with being sensitive, that identify with being intuitive or having spirit. We all have spiritual gifts. Just some of us are a little bit more open and attuned to them. Um, but being held in that and stepping into that in a new way and being so held by that. And of course, I put into ChatGPT. And there was a lot of insight into the meaning of that code. And it was really truly them honoring me and their stories becoming my story. And I'm holding their energy, their power, and I'm able to bring this forward in beautiful new ways and to shine so brightly. So really seeing for myself how much that original wound at 14 of being too much for a group, of being too weird and too much of a bright light for that group, and then seeing myself hiding in stairwells, eating my lunch by myself, feeling like this world didn't have space for me. There was no place for me to fit in, and how much that has echoed throughout my lifetime. And also feeling really, really deep gratitude and so much love for my husband, who throughout my lifetime has been there and supported me and loved me, every version of me, and has never gone anywhere. These friendships crash and burned. They hurt me. They tore me down. They made me feel incredibly small, but he's always been there. And I'm so grateful for him. And that is one of the gifts that I'm so grateful for that has helped me through this burning down of my life, and emerging brighter, stronger, more me than I've ever been and more excited to guide others on their journey of becoming, and stepping into and owning their magic. That's what I'm here for. Hey, I'm here to hold space for your becoming. I'm here to hold space for you truly being the bright light that you're here to be, because we live in a world that does not honor women who are here to shine, men who are here to shine. There's no space for it. We're told that we have to show up in a certain way, that we have to fit inside these boxes. And some of us were never meant to fit inside boxes. Actually, most of us were not meant to fit inside these boxes. And it's helping you understand and rebuild what that looks like. And me doing this deep transformative work helps me show up even more for you and seeing my magic unlock even more so than it always has been deeply, deeply healing. And I'm so grateful for my friendship with Sari and the work that we've been doing together. If you are interested in hypnotherapy, I definitely give her a huge shout out, for the work that she's doing and the magic that she has produced in this world. She is pure magic. I'm so grateful for her and our friendship and the work that we're doing together. But also, if you're ready to level up and you want to work with a fellow weirdo who understands what it feels like to be trying to fit in a world that never made sense for you, I'm here. I'm here to be present for your magic, to help you in your becoming. Uh, and that's where I'm at. It's been a lot. It's been a year of, like I said, a tear down of, going through the loss of my dad, having my oldest move out, and then, going through this hypnotherapy and truly over this year doing really deep transformative work. Every morning I'm waking up and I'm meditating. Every weekday I'm waking up and doing deep, deep journaling to get to some of these wounds that I have been working on for years. And, doing hypnotherapy at this point has been a deep culmination of work that I've already been putting in. And it's just, I'm ready for it now. I'm ready to see things in a new way and transform myself in new, beautiful ways. So, like I said, this was a kind of a deep, different type of episode, but I really wanted to share these experiences with you. So, if you're like me and you make good bread, and you're not meant to fit into this world in this way, welcome. You always have a seat at my table. You belong here. You're a part of this community, and I am forever grateful for my fellow weirdos who make good bread. If you have a friendship or somebody who needs to hear this, please share this episode. Share this and be like, hell yeah, you make good bread. And see how much this can really affect those who have been hurt, who have not felt held in friendships. And I'm so grateful for what I'm continuing to create. I've got some great episodes coming. I have really beautiful guests lined up that are all part of Ignite Your Type and the magic that we're creating in there, this beautiful community of people who make good bread. Much love, and we'll see you next week.